The biggest thing I never expected from all of this was just how much it was going to become a part of my life.
It's been 1 year since my assault.
And I am about 3 years out from my sexual assault.
Healing is not linear. There are a lot of effects and they're going to come and go. Some of the more common effects we see are, of course, emotional, so PTSD, depression, anxiety, self-harm behaviors, so suicide, sometimes homicide, medical, effects long-term, so the contraction of various STIs or STDs, pregnancy, as well as interpersonal relationships, so having a difficult time with intimacy, with, romantic or non-romantic intimate relationships. We also see very supportive secondary survivors, so friends and family who are endlessly there for the person. They're understanding, they are accepting of the process it takes to heal, and they understand too that this is going to affect them, and so they're seeking help. But we see a lot of survivors who don't tell their support systems, maybe because they don't want to burden them.
At first I didn't tell anyone, but I've been pretty open about it, and I tell a lot of people because I feel like the more that you talk about it, the less stigma it gets.
I've only recently just told my family. I waited to tell my mom and my sister, who are the closest people to me, because it's kind of made it too real, and I don't think I was ready yet to admit that. And I also really didn't want my mom to think anything was their fault.
That was probably the hardest FaceTime call of my life. I told them a couple days after it happened because I was in a lot of pain. The first person that I told what happened to was my grandbag in my sorority. She heard the story from someone else, but she heard the words assault come out of my mouth first. She helped me be strong and told me where to go, and was my person here that told me what to do with it.
It took me about till the summer after it happened before I started really talking to people about what happened. I don't think I even really comprehended it myself, but now I talk to anyone who would like to talk to me or would like to know. It's been a very long time to get to this place, but I really don't mind talking about it. It's something that happened to me, and I've discovered that it helps me, and it usually helps the person I'm talking to discuss what happened. And unfortunately, the more I've started to talk about it, the more I realize a lot of people have gone through the same thing as me, and it's started to become a huge part of my healing process.
A lot of the people that I've told see me as a stronger person, but at first I was really scared to tell people because I didn't want them to give me the pity eyes all the time. I don't really want people that I'm dating to know because they always take it as a scary thing, that they can't talk to me or anything about it.
Sort of one common thread is, this idea, especially in a relationship, often survivors will come to a point with their significant other where their significant other is kind of but I don't understand, this horrible thing happened to me when I was whatever, not sexual violence, but something else, and after 6 months I was fine, so why are you not fine, and so that's kind of a repeating theme that I see, is just not understanding why this person hasn't gotten over it.
The first relationship I had after was very weird for me, in the sense because it was the first one I told someone what had happened to me, and telling someone was something I don't think I really was sure I was going to do, but a part of me felt like I had to explain why certain things just didn't come naturally to me, and I was very afraid. And I think I've noticed that, especially with the first relationship I had, I think I could tell that the other person was uncomfortable with asking me things, and then it just makes it weird because you're I'm not gonna push if you're not comfortable, but I've already told you. So certain things that just seemed so natural or normal were so uncomfortable and weird, and it kind of felt like back in middle school where talking to someone was weird, and kissing someone was weird, and you just forgot, and you were in your head
I don't know if you can call it a relationship, but I did have this very toxic thing that I was in for about the length of a year, directly afterwards. And that was pretty much me staying in it because of I thought nothing's as bad as what's happened to me before, even though this was completely destroying me. They knew what happened to me right away, and so it was very much like, to get intimate with this person was very like a taboo thing that they didn't want to do because they knew I was like something that I was scared of.
Family and friends of survivors are affected, for sure. It's very difficult. I think it can take a number of different forms. A lot of times family and friends are really upset because something happened to their loved one and they're not sure how to react or how to help them. Survivors go through a process after sexual assault where they have to confront their thoughts and feelings about sexual assaults, what they've been taught by our society, essentially, and friends and family go through that too.
I started talking to people who are very close to me. I realized some people blame themselves for what happened, and that was really heartbreaking, and I think it helped both of us to discuss the fact that it's no one's fault but one person.
So if we have survivors in our life, one of the things we can do is ask, hey, this is your information. Would it be okay if I did this? Would it help you if I did this? Here, I found this information for you. Is it overwhelming to give you this? Is this helpful? Just being aware that your goal after a person is assaulted is to empower, and support. And that means letting them make the decisions about their recovery process.
I think as far as supporting survivors, the most important thing that friends and family can do are believe them. I've done work with survivors for years, and the most important thing that I hear over and over again is that first person that they went to, if they believe them, that's the most empowering.
Like, the biggest surprise for me has been like how supportive people are when you tell them what happened. You still get the pity eyes, but then they see like the stuff that you're doing and like how far you've come, and they random people tell me they admire me at a party and I never met them before, and it's just like, wow, I didn't realize you knew who I was or what I do.
I think the first thing people don't realize is the sheer number. They just don't know how many people have been assaulted. I think the second thing is people probably don't know how much survivors blame themselves. I think if you don't have that kind of knowledge, a lot of people in the general populace just don't understand how hard it is for survivors to speak out about what happened to them because how much they blame themselves. And some of that is because of our rape culture society that says this is something you're supposed to be able to prevent when it's something that's perpetuated against you.
My relationship with my body has definitely been ever growing. I'm getting better every day, and I've done a few weird things just to try and feel reconnected with my own body. I think a lot of my issues with that have not been as much of what it looks like, but my own connection with my own body, my own control over my own body. So
I am not a person who was very confident in my body before this, and afterwards was a lot worse. I was very much trying to disassociate myself with it, so my clothing was different, and when people would tell me how pretty I am, it's always something no. Before that, it was more just oh, I'm chubby, whatever. But afterwards, it was more I hate the body I'm in. So it's been a lot. It's hard for me to feel comfortable in my own skin a lot.
Anxiety in general is just a feeling of being kind of nervous, on edge, and it's important to differentiate that from an anxiety disorder. Anxiety in general, everybody experiences. It's a normal thing. Anxiety disorders are when anxiety gets to a point where it's disruptive to somebody's life.
My anxiety has become a bigger thing in the last year. I started to deal with this more on a serious level, so a lot of things have surfaced, and I'm definitely in a higher stress part of my life. So my anxiety's been more of a thing, and it definitely threw me off because I thought I was doing really, really well, and I was. I really am. But having something like anxiety pop up due to a lot of circumstances I was thrown in involving what happened to me and then my life, and it kind of made me realize that this healing process is truly linear in that.
PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a psychiatric disorder that is diagnosed. Basically, it's a series of symptoms that occurs after a traumatic event.
Since then, I got diagnosed with PTSD and panic disorder. Panic disorder, I was diagnosed recently, in last December of 2016. And PTSD, I was diagnosed right after my assault. And it was very hard for me because it's hard to sleep. I don't want to sleep. I get really bad nightmares. And if something triggers me, then the nightmares keep going. And the panic disorder is I'll get panic attacks constantly all day. Depending on the day, I'll have none, and some days I'll have
Panic disorder is an anxiety disorder that is largely centered around panic attacks. And so when you hear that somebody has panic disorder, their anxiety is manifesting in panic attacks most.
As for things like being a college student and social media, it's hard. I have definitely had this person pop up on my social media, and it's weird because you want to be able to move past it, but it's also helped me make sure that I'm addressing what's happening to me. I've been trying to find, the silver lining in all of these situations. And
I feel like the more you talk about it and the more you know that you're a survivor, not a victim, is gonna help you. It could be 6 months, a year after, and you still feel like you're gonna fall apart, but you can get back up. It's just not something that you want to keep pushing off. Let yourself feel the emotions, don't just put them away, because it'll come back to you. And it's something you deal with daily. There's gonna be little baby triggers all day, or big triggers, or days where you don't want to leave your bed. And I think that people forget that there's no set date that you're gonna be over it. And everybody says time heals all, but even as time goes by, you still remember it and have flashbacks, and it's one of those things that you don't just forget.
I think people are really trying to understand survivors, and I think that's a huge part of understanding the culture and understanding to make a change. It's just understanding us.
It's a lot what is justice to you? A criminal justice process usually takes from 2 to 4 years. That is a long time after your initial assault. Justice can mean a lot of different things. It can mean a civil suit. It can mean becoming an activist. It can mean going to the press and telling them your story. It can mean writing down something and sending a letter. It can mean, a different thing to every person, but you really have to examine in yourself what is justice.